Hi, I'm Jackie from Leadership and Life, and I just wanted to share with you a book that I just finished reading called No One Wins Alone by Mark Messier. And it's not sort of your traditional leadership book, so I didn't want to just necessarily do a book review on it, but I thought it was really worth talking about. And so I'll start from the beginning. So I am a hockey fan of the 80s in Edmonton. And so name like Mark Messier brings back nostalgia. I remember the Oilers of the 80s and growing up, and they were unstoppable, and thinking it was an amazing team. And certainly Mark Messier was a huge part of that, as was, Paul Coffey and Yari Curry and Wayne Gretzky, of course, Grant Fuhr, Andy Moog, for all my Oiler fan people. But he wrote a book about his story and his leadership and teams and that whole experience. And what's really interesting is his constant reiteration of we win and lose as a team, and we win and lose because we are a team or we aren't a team. And so I found it really interesting that was his philosophy. So here is a phenomenal hockey player who played professional hockey into his 40s, which is somewhat unheard of, fairly uninjured, won multiple Stanley Cups, and he was captain of many, many teams. And so what does that look like? And he talks throughout the book about building that team and what they did to build the team, and that when they weren't a team is when they experienced the biggest challenges and the biggest loss, and that it was that team, and it was knowing those strengths, and how can we put people together, how can we build lines, and how can he inspire people to come together and to grow. And I think in leadership, our job as leaders is to build that team, and it is to, in however you lead, build the capacity and the belief in people that they can accomplish the goal. And so he said our number one goal is to win the Stanley Cup. And that was what they went, and everything that they gave, every game that they played was about winning the Stanley Cup. And so as a team, do you have a rallying cry? And I just finished reading, or I'm just almost finished reading, Patrick Lencioni's Silos, Turf Wars, and Politics. And that's what it talks about, is this rallying cry. Do we have something that we are all so passionate about that we can move forward on? And so do you have that as a team? And have you defined that? Have you agreed to it? Do you talk about it all the time? Here is our overarching objective. And so here is, we want to win the Stanley Cup, and here's what we need to do that. And here's where we fell apart because we didn't know each other. We didn't support each other when we get into that blame game. And so my husband coaches volleyball in addition to soccer, and he always says that volleyball is a huge mind game, and it is like you get in your head and you get down on yourself, and that is what will take you down. I don't care how good a team you are. And if you listen to the video I made last week about telling the story about the coach that beat on was yelling at his team, and how they just really sunk down and eventually lost the game. And there was another time we played, a few years ago, a different team, and they were a phenomenal team, and they won one set and we won one set, and we're going to the third set, and their players make a couple mistakes, and they turn on each other and they say, like, you should have been here, and the coach is getting mad at them, but so are the players, the teammates, the ones who are supposed to say, you know what, it's okay, let's fix this together. We are a team first and individuals after. And instead they started just kind of beaking on each other. And instead of being a close game, 13-15, 16-14, it ended up being something like 15-6. It was a bit of a blowout, because the more they felt down and less they worked as a team, and it isn't a game that you can play on your own. I think the importance of team recognizes that everybody has a contribution to play, and that no team is one person. And I think we can all look at whether that's a sports team that has a really great player, or whether that is a team at work that has a phenomenally talented person on it. That person can't carry the whole team. They can deliver their thing on their own, and they can maybe meet their own metrics. But as a team, we can't accomplish things. If we only had one star player on a hockey team, they can't win the Stanley Cup, right? Unless they've built up the talent and they're working as a team. And so I remember watching this one soccer game, and like they had a star player, and she was phenomenal, and they had really good players, but they would all stop and watch her. And so she had then no one to play off of, no one to support her. And it's a big field. There's 11 people that can come after her. So, you know, in the hockey, there's 5 people that can come after that player. And the only strength we have is the other people on the team. If there's 3 people swarming one player, you pass it to the other player who isn't being swarmed. And so on our team, how have we built those people up, and how are we empowering and finding the special, unique talents of each person on our team so that we can build the biggest, strongest team that we can, because that is what will really make the difference. So if you haven't read it and you are an Oilers fan, a Messier fan, a hockey fan, it's fantastic. It was a trip down memory lane a little bit, but otherwise the message is phenomenal. It's so good because it was consistent throughout his career. As a kid, I didn't really know of him as a leader per se, but he wore that captain for years and over multiple teams. And when I read about his philosophy, it makes me admire him even more. Okay, have a great day, and thanks so much for joining me talking about No One Wins Alone.